Hey there, this is Power Stroke Maintenance, and I am going to be doing a review of my Cooper AT3 XLT all-terrain tires. They're 35/12.50s, and I got about 40K on them now, and so I've been pretty pleased with them, but there's a few things I just want to talk about that I'll go through here with some pros and cons. So just for some background on my maintenance habits, obviously this channel is called Power Stroke Maintenance. I don't do as many how-tos as some other channels like Diesel Tech Ron, Power Stroke Help, and PTT with A-Rod do a lot of like the tech stuff, and they're like actual techs. My channel is more about taking this from an owner's perspective. So I own this truck, I drive it a lot. I drive anywhere between 35 and 45,000 miles a year, and so it gets used a lot, and I'm documenting my journey as kind of a DIY person owning one of these trucks. And so last fall, over a year ago, I actually purchased these tires that you'll see here. They're 35/12.50 R18, so I have 18-inch stock Ford wheels, and I went with the 35s. They clear the truck, they rub a little bit on the radius arm in the front, but because this is a maintenance channel, I try to be really dialed about my tire rotations, and so these are getting rotated every 5,000 to 7,000 miles, depending on when I end up doing an oil change, but it's usually every 5,000 miles. And I do mostly highway miles, but I also drive off-road fairly often when I'm doing events. I'm a filmmaker, and so I'll go to a lot of action sports events and to trailheads and stuff for shoots, and it involves me going on crappy dirt roads. So these tires were really important for me to have, just to give me a little bit more cushion, to be able to air down, have a bit more sidewall, but also still be able to function as a pretty decent highway tire when I'm driving I-80 or I-70 going across the country at like 80 miles an hour. So unfortunately, my wife did depart, and she had our tire depth checker. So these again have about 40,000 miles on them, and the rubber is holding up pretty well. There are some cracks out here. I do park my truck out all the time. So we'll talk about the pros first, what I really like about these tires. I think top thing, and I've seen this in other reviews, is noise. These are very quiet all-terrain tire. I would assume, because I know some people that have them, that the Falcon Wild Peak AT3s are probably quieter, and you probably get a little bit more wear out of them, but these are super quiet on the highway. I've taken the truck up to probably 85 miles an hour or 90 miles an hour when I was driving in Wyoming, and you're just trying to get through nothing as fast as you can. And so yeah, I was cruising with these, and you know, they ride great. And so, you know, very smooth. They don't really rumble, they don't make a lot of noise, you know, like you don't even hear them over the sound of the engine of the truck. And you know, I have DPF back exhaust on, so like I have a DPF, my engine's not loud, and yeah, they're super quiet. The second pro I would add is definitely the tread life. So these have 40,000 miles on them, and I know I already showed the tire, but they have plenty of life left. I'm driving a ton on them, and they still look great. You know, I'm hoping I'll probably be able to get 60,000 out of these, but yeah, they have a ton of miles on them, and you know, I still have a lot of tread left, plenty of grip, and I do ride on crappy roads. I'm doing, you know, a lot of off in the dirt, driving on gravel, you know, materials that really kind of wear the tires quicker than just being on normal pavement. So these have been great, and they've held up really well, and you know, I think they're worthwhile as a, you know, as an all-terrain. The last thing that I would note as a pro for these tires is definitely the look. They have a very aggressive sidewall, and you know, the 35/12.50 on an 18 I think just looks really good on these trucks. I definitely think the 37/12.50 is probably the best looking if you're gonna go like stock ride height, or if you have a leveling kit on. But you know, 35 is kind of a good all-rounder. Again, still you get, you know, okay fuel economy on the highway. Usually if I'm really smashing, I probably get like 17, 18 miles per hour on the highway with these. So now we're gonna talk about the cons. What about these tires is shit, which I'm sure is probably what you wanna know as a prospective buyer. I already mentioned one top thing, tough to balance. I don't think it's just because they're 35s, because I've known plenty of other people that have put other brands of 35s on. And part of it, I think too, I had some trouble with death wobble on my front end earlier this year, and I mistook that for the tires, you know, not being balanced correctly. And then when I replaced my track bar, you know, the death wobble went away. And so, but I definitely noticed even before that the death wobble was an issue, the tires liked to wobble a bit between 65 and 70. I've driven the truck at 80, 85. They smooth right out. I think just with 35s, you might get a little bit of a shimmy at that point, but these were kind of tough to do. They sit really well in the truck. You know, I don't have wheel spacers. I am just running these stock R18s, 18-inch wheels with these 35s, and they look good, but they definitely were tough to get balanced. And, you know, it's a big piece of rubber, so you gotta balance it and rotate it pretty regularly. But the second con is that when these tires were new, before I really wore them in, they friggin' collected rocks like a geologist. I mean, it was like if you drove in gravel, as soon as you went on the pavement, you just hear because the tires would be spraying all the rocks they had collected all up in the fender wells. And so, I don't know, I mean, they're all-terrain, so when they're new, they probably grab a little bit more than like a highway tire would. But yeah, they had a lot of rocks that would get like stuck in them. That phenomenon has since subsided quite a bit. But, you know, they definitely like to get little rocks stuck up in there, and then they spray out at all angles when you get up to highway speed. Now, this phenomenon is kind of interesting. I have noticed this on other Coopers that I've seen. So I think it's just the way that the tires are designed to wear. But if anyone has any intel on this, I would be really curious. The outer knobs, so they have these this patch here and then here, they wear unevenly. So like these smaller knobs wear more than these larger ones. And maybe you can see this from here, but if I put the camera down a little bit, you can see that these knobs are lower than these knobs. And even with my diligent tire rotation, they do have this like shark finning tendency where it's like they want to wear, you know, more on one side than they do on the other. I've seen that again on other Cooper tires, so I don't know if it's by design. Again, they haven't gotten louder or quieter. They've stayed the same, like super quiet sound, so I don't think it's really affecting the tire wear. I haven't noticed any issues with fuel economy, but it is kind of a weird wear pattern that I wasn't quite expecting. And so I think that could be a con. I don't know if they're supposed to wear like this. I wouldn't imagine they're supposed to wear like that. They're supposed to wear smooth. And so the weird wear pattern is definitely a little concerning and something that, you know, I would consider, especially since I've rotated my tires pretty diligently. Now, these tires are pretty reasonably priced. I think when I got them, I mean, it was a year ago and inflation is a thing, so they're probably more expensive now, but they were like $405 a tire for 35 1250s, so not terrible. But the last thing I guess I would leave you with is that at that price point, these are still not considered like snow rated tires. So the Falcon Wild Peak AT3s are severe snow service rated. They have like the 3, you know, peak snow rating, and these are not. They do well in the snow, I would say that. But if you're looking for something that is an all-terrain, that is rated for, you know, plowing or snow work of any kind or operation in the snow, these are not rated for that. So I'd say that's definitely a con. You know, they do well in the snow. I've driven in the snow a lot. I haven't plowed with them though. So like if I was going to plow in this truck, I'd probably get snow tires, or at least ones with the 3-peak snow rating. The last thing I'll mention, and this is to kind of go with the pros, is as an off-road tire, if you're going to be running these in sand or dry dirt, they are awesome. I've driven up some hills. I've rarely had to use 4-wheel drive. So as an all-terrain, they do work well off-road and they do work well on the highway. They're a good all-rounder. There's just those few cons that I mentioned that I had a little bit of trouble with. But I'd say overall they're a great tire, a good choice. I know when I looked at other reviews, people said they are trash in the mud, and I believe that because I'd say most all-terrains are probably trash in the mud. Like, you can't have blocks this close together and expect it's going to be able to shed mud. I mean, maybe there's some out there, but at that point, if you know you're going to be in the mud, you just get mud terrains. That's what they're for. I hope this was helpful. These tires are definitely a great option if you want a good all-rounder that's good on the highway, good in the dirt, and reasonable in the snow. Just, you know, I guess I had a little bit of issue getting them balanced, but I suppose that could happen with any brand. So anyway, thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe, and we'll see you next time here on Power Stroke Maintenance. Cheers.